Our special guest today, Paul Beeston, the first ever Blue Jays employee who became Blue Jays president, president of Major League Baseball, president of the Argos. Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show. Coming up! Our guest today is from Welland, Ontario. He is a chartered accountant, a graduate of Western University. He was the Blue Jays' first employee, Blue Jays Vice President of Business Operations, Executive Vice President of the Blue Jays, President and CEO of the Blue Jays, President of the Argos, President and COO of Major League Baseball, an honorary Doctor of Laws degree from Western University, a member of the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, a member of the Blue Jays Level of Excellence, and a member of the Order of Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, Paul Beeston. Paul,
Joe, good to see
you, my friend.
Good to see you again, Joe.
It's been a little while, but it's great, man. You look fantastic.
I feel very good, very, very fortunate. Have a pretty good life right now. Wish everybody could have what I've had. And as we're going through these, I guess retirement years or whatever, unemployment years, whatever it's going to be, if you attack it the right way and say it's a job, it works out very, very well.
Well, it's kind of a job. I know, like right now, you're president emeritus of the Blue Jays. What exactly does that entail?
That entails I have an office. That it means I have a seat at the ball game, and most importantly, it means I have parking. Okay. After that, it means nothing else. But I must say, between Mark and Ross and the Rogers people, they've treated me very, very well. So when I say that I have nothing, I mean I really don't have anything. If they ask some questions, I can kind of give them the historical background to it. But all in all, the game has changed dramatically since when I was here, whether it's the analytics on the field, the way some of the rules have changed. But the bottom line of it is, that I just enjoy it, Joe.
Well, our careers always take twists and turns, and they end up going places where sometimes we have no idea where they're going. What were you expecting to do when you left Welland to attend Western University?
Well, I can tell you one thing. I was never going to be an athlete because I'm not an athlete. But when I left Welland and went to Western, I went into general arts, and it was political science and economics. I had to get a job when I graduated. So I interviewed the accounting firms because I figured I was going to go to Europe after that. But I kind of liked accounting. But my goal always was to be in sports. But being in London and not knowing a lot of people that were making the decision makers at that time, I never really considered it to be a realistic opportunity. And then, as luck would have it, I ran into a friend of Pete Fowler's, the late great doctor from London, Ontario. Don McDougall moved next door to him, and Don McDougall was the president of Labatt's. Labatt's was looking to get a team to move it into Toronto. Was a marketing scheme on theirs at that point in time, and that was back in 1975, 76. They eventually got it in 76. Don, knowing that I was a great fan of baseball, asked me if I would like this job. And to be very frank with you, it was a dream come true. It wasn't one of those I had to think about. It wasn't one of those ones we really discussed. I knew I was going to be moving to Toronto, but at the same point in time, you'd lose your comfort zone. But I had my degree, and I wasn't too worried about it. And as they say, I was the right person for me at the right time. And so, while I never applied for the job, I was very, very fortunate to work for good people. Moved here in '76 as the first employee. First game was in '77. Put together, and not me, but the organization came together very, very well back then. And we had the patience because we had good ownership. And by kind of the early 80s, and I talk about 82, 83, we were a good team. And, by 85, we were playing for the American League Championship against Kansas City. And it was, and it seems like, that it was a long time when you're going through it. But in fact, it was a very short period of time. And Pat Gillick and Bobby Maddock and Al Amakia, the group will put together some terrific baseball teams. And the funny part about it is when you think back on it, and that was a young team and we were early. The Blue Jays, even our years when we won the World Series, never again won 99 games.
Wow. Wow. And you encapsulated the whole thing there in a very, very concise period of time there, Paul. Very well done. So, but I want to ask you, like you're there from day one. What was that like? I mean, what did you feel like being the first Jays employee, and there's nothing else around you, but obviously very exciting times with Major League Baseball coming to Toronto for the first time?
Well, to be honest with you, Joe, scared. I mean, in some respects, I remember when we got the job, we didn't have a name. I mean, we were Metro Baseball. That was the name. We were working out of the Goodman and Goodman law offices. And walked in there, and there was me and Millie Tankrader, who was the assistant at that point in time. And when you got there, the phone rang, and I remember it was 5 after 9, and it was a Monday morning, and it said, "Paul, yes, this is Lee McPhail." And I knew Lee McPhail's name, and he was the president of the American League. And to phone me to welcome me to the Major League Baseball and everything, I mean, like, I think I was probably shaking a little bit. And that, man, Lee McPhail knows my name. And, and we were talking about it. And then it kind of just moved from there. Soon we hired Pete Bavasi. And then, Pat came on, and Elliot Wally, Howie Starkman, George Holm. The whole team came together. And, it seemed like a long year. From May when we started to the first game in April of 1977, of 1977. But at the same point in time, we had to get the stadium ready, had to get the team together, you had to get a spring training site, you had to get television contracts. I mean, the whole thing came together. But we only had 28 people working there. I mean, there may be 28 people in PR right now.
That's incredible how fast that came together. A lot of work being done.
It did, Joe. It did, but everyone worked hard. But everyone worked hard. And you know what? And it was as collegial a team off the field as it was on the field. But you had to get a manager. I mean, we had to, had to put the farm system together. And that first farm system had one team, which was basically in Utica, which was a low A team. You had to have the expansion draft. There was all kinds of things to do, but it did come together. And strangely enough, we were a very young team as opposed to our brethren out in Seattle that came in at the same point in time. They took, the big names, the Maury Wills of this world. Pat was out there, and in his wisdom, basically we took guys that were still with us back in 1985 when we won. The Jim Clancy's and, the Garth Orges and, those types of guys, Ernie Witt. I mean, those are all off the expansion draft. So, anyways, who are these guys? Well, it came together. And so it was terrific. It was a terrific experience to be part of. And, I consider myself very, very fortunate.
Well, it was such a significant job of hiring Pat Gillick. How did that process come about? Who made the calls on that one?
Yeah, Pat. Well, I would say that probably Pete Bavasi. Pat was had been to Houston. He'd gone over to the Yankees. I'm going to make this up, but I think I'm right. In 1974, but it might be 75. And I don't think that was going to work out too well there long term for him. A different type of an environment, and Pat being the gentleman that he is, I don't think that you're going to ever get him, being part of the circus that was happening in New York at that time. So Pat went in; he could become a general manager. So Pat went from a scouting director, and Pete hired him and brought him here. And the funny part about it, when we reflect back on it, Joe, the big thing about it is when they brought them all here, everyone that was ownership, which was Labatt's, which owned 45%, Howard Webster from Montreal owned 45%, and the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce 10%, bought into the program, which was one of patience. That there was no quick fix. It was going to take time. Let's do the scouting and let's do the developing. Let's bring the guys forward. And as Bobby Maddow used to say, there's 3 ways of getting players. One is to scout and develop them. Second is to trade for them. The third is in the free agent market, and you have to use them all. And I think if you see what happened over the years, that's basically how it came together.
What do you think was the toughest business decision, or maybe the best business decision that you made personally in those early years?
Oh wow! I got to tell you what, the best decision I made was hiring good people. I mean, or being part of a team that was good people. I mean, you can't do it without people. And we were very, very fortunate in being surrounded by a group that that liked each other, that worked together, that could laugh together, that didn't take themselves too seriously, but knew that it was a serious business and that wanted to win. And that knew that it wasn't easy and knew that there was going to be some pitfalls there. So if there was a good decision, that I was part of, it was building the organization. Because Joe, if you start looking at the guys that we had in 2000 in 1976 and 1977, the key people were still there in 1992 and 93 when we won. There was not a lot of turnover, and we got ourselves into a position because of a gentleman called Peter Hardy, who was really the conscience of the organization, and he was the vice chairman, but seconded to basically the ball club from Labatt. He'd been the former chairman there. I mean, he taught everyone to treat people well and to appreciate them, and at the very end of the day, put together an organization that stayed together, because continuity is absolutely critical to being successful in anything, in my opinion.
Well, you talk about team success, and it sounds like team success was based on a team gelling from the top all the way down. And you talked about drafting those young kids and having a pretty good team in 82, 83. And I remember those years would keep coming kind of close, but then the bullpen was there and there's one thing or another. But then in 85, it all came together. And that young Jays team, despite Bill Cottle being a bit of a, flop and everything else, you still managed to put things together. Tom Hankey came up, everything else started to come together. Tell us about that 85 team and how that magic happened.
Well, I mean, we got very, very fortunate. When I say fortunate, hiring Bobby Cox back in the end of the 81 season. We've kind of bridged from Roy Hartsfield the first 3 years as the manager to Bobby Maddock. And Bobby Maddock's strength, and many people think of him as a great scout, but probably a lot of people would say that he's as good an instructor and as good a developer as there has been in the game of baseball too. Well, he took it for 2 years, and he was teaching the Lloyd Mosbys, the George Bells, Jesse Barfields, Dave Steves, those types of guys, how to play at the major league level. By the time we got into 82, 83, and Bobby Cox came in, who had been the manager in Atlanta, he brought the experience, but he brought the personality. He was completely egoless. I mean, he was just a terrific, terrific guy. And, he was there for 4 years. And we were in a division. We talk about the American League East being a tough division now. American League was always a tough division. In 83, the Orioles won the World Series. In 84, Detroit, they got off at 35-5. They got off at 35-5, and, June the 1st, we were 4 games behind. I mean, Bobby got our team off pretty good then. So we knew that we were in a pretty good shape for going into the future. And by the time we got to 85, the pieces all came together, and it was a combination. It was signing the Bill Cottles and the Gary Lavells, and they may not all have worked out, but we hit that ace in Dave Steep. Every time you went out there, you knew you had a chance to win. Jim Clancy was going to give you innings, and he was going to win you games. And we had Ernie and Buchan back. We had we had the platoon system with Garth and with and Rance Mullick. And then you had Tony Fernandez, and you had it all just kind of came together with the 3 kids in the outfield, Bell, Barfield, and Mosby. And all of them could run, and all of them could hit.
So there was a disappointment that you guys lost that series to the Royals, being up 3-1. I remember that. It was kind of hard to take. I really thought you guys were going to win, especially after that game 1 gem by Steve when he shut them out, I think 2-0 or something. But great series, great experience, I guess, even though it ended in disappointment in that Game 7 loss. But so Bobby Cox ends up leaving, going back to Atlanta. Jimmy Williams came in. What was the decision that prompted you guys to say enough of Jimmy? Let's bring in Cito, and why did you make the choice on Cito?
Well, I mean, I think at the point in time, and I think if you go back and look at it, Joe, you've got it's always tough to change a manager. Change a manager in the beginning of the season is even more difficult. because at that point in time, who can you interview and who's going to give permission to interview. We interviewed a few people, and I mean, it's not talking anything behind anybody's back by saying that we interviewed, I think, 4 different players, and it was Lou Piniella at the very end that said, "Look, I don't know why you're looking for anybody. You got the right guy here managing your team right now in Cito." And I remember Lou because we interviewed Lou, and Lou was the one that suggested that take Cito. Well, when Cito took over, I think I'm right. That we were 12-24, and by the and by the end of the season, we had won 89 games and won the American League East, and we're playing Oakland in the playoffs. And Oakland had a good team, but the bottom line of it is Cito was the right guy at the right place at the right time for us. He came in with he'd been a player, he'd been a coach, he'd been a hitting coach. He loved the city, and more importantly than that, he had this ability to communicate with players that all good coaches seem to have. He was honest. He was upfront. He wasn't kind of the hard ass. He was more somebody that would let everybody know, but you never wanted to challenge him. You could always say, how tough is he? You did maybe want to find out. And so Cito controlled the room. Cito controlled the room, and it was a magnificent hire. And for what came after that, I mean, you look back on it, you say, man, Cito was the right guy for this team at that time, and might have been for a lot of teams.
Yeah, you know what? I always loved Clarence. Well, because he's got the same first name as me. But I loved a lot of things about him. Yeah. Yeah. Coming to Toronto, that was Pat's choice. You know that, eh? Yeah. What's your middle name? Joe. And let's go with Joe Tilley. All right. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So no, I was just gonna say. So Clarence Cito was the guy. Clearly, he was. It's a lot of people. They don't give. In my opinion, they've never given. A lot of people haven't given Cito enough credit for what he managed to accomplish. I mean, how many managers, first of all, have ever won a World Series, let alone back-to-back World Series? And even though the Jays, sure, they had lots of talent, but bringing that talent together and forming the chemistry. I mean, we've seen hundreds of baseball teams that had the talent, but it's bringing the talent together, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, look at it from when he took over, from 89 when he took over, made the playoffs. 90, I think we went down to the last day. And 91, we had a very, very good team in 91. That was after the trade that had brought in Joe and Robbie. And, we had got Devo as a free agent that year. We traded for Junior Felix. But, the team was starting to come together at that point in time. Then 92 and 93, we won. And, you look back on it, and, you have to, give Cito the credit because he kept everybody focused, but everybody relaxed at the same point in time. And we went to spring training back in 92. The goal wasn't to win the American League East. And the goal wasn't to win the American League. The goal was to win the World Series. And I know that sounds like that's obvious. I mean, because I think everybody would say that's obvious. That's everybody's goal. Except, we'd had, gotten close to success over the years. And so when Cito came there, and focused on the World Series, that's what we talked about. It wasn't going to be finished just by having a couple of successes in early rounds. It was only being a successful season if we won the World Series, and I think he got everybody buying into that. It didn't hurt, that we brought in Jack Morris and brought in and who won over 20 games that first year, and Dave Winfield. And didn't hurt the next year, when made all those changes. Everyone forgets about, I think, 13 or 14 changes next year. But in came
right.
Paul Molitor and Dave Stewart. And so, but why I'm always so impressed, because when we were fortunate enough to have those the parade and have everybody come down to the Sky Dome, as it was then called, there wasn't a player that got up there that didn't say, I want to thank Cito. I want to thank Cito. Everybody knew what he meant. Everybody knew what he meant to it. And his ability to get people the best out of people, and to get and actually get people to do only what they could do. He never asked them to do something that they couldn't do. He didn't ask the guy who couldn't steal a base to steal a base. He never, and he could, and he could laugh when there were mistakes. And so he kept everything pretty loose, and he knew it was a long season, and we were very, very fortunate.
Right. I don't remember the Jays ever being uptight under Cito. And the same can't be said under Jimmy. I remember just going down to the ballpark and just the tension. I could feel it. Of course, when you start the season 12-24, things are not going. It's pretty hard to be relaxed. But let's talk about 1992. A chance to close the deal in Atlanta after missing an opportunity back at home. Game 6, tying run at third. Mike Timlin facing Otis Nixon, who's a great bunter. Were you a little anxious here?
Very. Very. Are you kidding me? He can still actually you can't watch that video enough, Joe. If you want to know the truth, I mean, that was the first one. That was the culmination from 1977, which we were talking about earlier. That was the whole deal. And I think you can see it. It was a team. They all do it, but it was. And Atlanta was a good team. Atlanta was a force. I mean, they had stars, they had star pitching, they had everything. So it was something. And then we got Otis over here later on.
And there's Joe Carter.
Team. Yeah, there's no question. There's no question. And so you had to be happy. You had to be happy for them. And I look at this thing and I see Derek Bell, and there was a draft choice that came along. I mean, there was all kinds of like the Dave Steves and draft choice. Lloyd Mosley. Well, Lloyd was gone at that point in time, but the whole thing just came together nicely.
And Joe Carter, we mentioned making the final out there at first base. For defensive adjustments and whatever.
That was a prelude for the next year, Joe.
Yeah, exactly right. That's in '93. It ends in spectacular fashion. Let's listen to the call from Tom Cheek.
Had his moments. 2 balls and 2 strikes on it. Here's the pitch on the way. A swing and a belt. Left field. Way back. Blue Jays win it. The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run in the 9th inning, and the Blue Jays have repeated as World Series champions. Touch 'em all, Joe. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
What a call. What a call. What a moment. Greatest World Series ending ever. No question about it. So tell me, Paul, when you get home, how did that compare to the previous victory?
Well, they're all different, aren't they? I mean, the first one was special because it was the first one. I mean, but to win one in the 6th game in the bottom of the 9th, you're like, how do you repeat that? I mean, and Joe dancing and all coming together. So they both bring memories back, and they are both very, very exciting. But it was funny. It was the kind of we got the monkey off our back by winning in 1992, the first. At that point in time, proved it could be done. We'd been good in 84, 85, 86, 87, which everyone, we didn't talk about, but that was the march against Detroit, 88, 89, and we'd done it. And there were a lot of changes. I mean, at that point, Dave Winfield, who was so instrumental in 92, was gone. Jimmy Key was gone, but in came Paul Molitor and Dave Stewart. And so there were changes there. And then Pat Gillick made the trade and brought in Ricky Anderson. I mean, if you start looking at the team, that was a team of Hall of Famers. I mean, this was not a team of just a bunch of all-stars. I mean, because if you weren't a Hall of Famer, you were an all-star. But there were 4 or 5 Hall of Famers in that team, and so it was just special, and it was done in Toronto. The first one was done in Atlanta. This was one that was done right here. Right before midnight. The ball goes out. Tom, the late great Tom Cheek makes the call, and we've been listening to it ever since, and thankfully.
You talked about the 14 changes from 92 to 93. I mean, you're in a situation where everybody wanted to come to Toronto and play for the Blue Jays, eh? Everybody wanted to come and play here.
Well, it was a selling tool. I mean, everyone forgets, how good the city is too. I mean, but the players that have been around knew what the city was and what it offered and that type. But and we had a good team. I mean, the core was still there. and so you really didn't have to worry about it. And young guys were coming on. The John Olerud, you could see what he was going to be. By this point, Robbie was in his third or fourth or fifth year, whatever it was. But you were talking about someone special there. The outfield with Devon White. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a pitcher if you've got Devon White running patrolling center field? So it was all starting to come together. And by that time, Tom Henke had left, but we still have Wardo. And if you go back in that bullpen over the collection of 92 and 93, because I'll get confused on the and that's what happens when you get to be 77 years old. So. But you get confused. But that bullpen had Todd Stottlemyre, it had Jimmy Key, and it had David Wells in it, it had Pat Henkin in it, it had Ward in it. It never really and Henke, of course, and so. There were so many players that went on to have great careers, that won over 100 games. These guys were in the bullpen.
Yeah. And after that World Series win, making it back-to-back in 93, you were interviewed by your old pal, Rod Black. Let's run that.
I mean, the credit goes to Cito. I think it goes to Pat and everybody put the team together. We tried to do it when we started out this year, and all of a sudden, the whole thing worked out, so you can't beat it.
Now you got to go right back to work, and there are going to be some people who aren't going to be here again like last year. I know you have to cut your payroll too. Your thoughts? I know you'd like to savor each moment. Can this team come back and make it 3? Is it possible?
Well, let me tell you, you cannot be a 3-peat unless you're a 2-peat. I mean, so we've done the 2-peat. That goes to credit, goes to say player development, Pat, Cito, everybody else. I think that we'll be trying to do it again next year, and it's too too early. I mean, this is a time to have some fun. This is a time to rejoice in what they did this year, and I'd like to think that, we're not even going to worry about who's not going to be here. Thank the people that have been here.
And was it fun? You look like you're having a good time. What are your thoughts when you see that young Paul?
That was a fun time back then. No, my thoughts haven't really changed. I mean, you've got to enjoy the moments. I mean, life is about celebration. One of the good things about sports, that I think we all understand, but all gets frustrated, is it is the one thing that can pull a community together and can pull a province together, can pull a nation together. We can see it whether it's in the Olympics or whether it's in the Raptors or whether it's in the Blue Jays, because the Raptors and Blue Jays being the only professional teams in their respective sports, they can pull it together. But you knew that there was happiness. You knew there was there, and to be able to, everybody come together, whether, that you were living out west, whether you were living in Toronto, whether you were working, whether you were a Supreme Court judge, or whether you were somebody that was working, didn't have a job. It didn't make any difference. You all came together, And so, I mean, that was a pretty special moment. I haven't seen that before.
Pretty awesome. So back-to-back World Series titles, first Major League Baseball club to draw 4 million fans in a season. The success did not go unnoticed because in 1997, Major League Baseball comes calling and you become president and chief operating officer of Big League Baseball. First of all, let's go back to that time and when you were asked about getting that new gig. Vic, let's roll.
It's a little bit different and a little bit foreboding in a lot of ways, but it's been a long climb, I suppose, to the position that I'm in right now. I'm honored that I even had the position with the Blue Jays. I believe myself as a Blue Jay, and there was no opportunity to go anywhere else in my mind that would have done anything that would have satisfied me, because I'd have been cheering for the Blue Jays. So when this came available, and they thought that I could do the job and contribute to Major League Baseball, which has been very kind to me, to my family, it was something that I thought I might want to take a shot at. Kids are at university now, and it's the right time, and hopefully I can do something that'll be good for the game.
Do you feel like you did a good job with MLB?
Yeah. I mean, could you always do a better job? Of course you could. But, I went there for 3 years. I stayed for 5. I think we developed a relationship with the Players Association, which was important. Developed with the networks, which was important. We did some good work with our international baseball, and we restructured the front office of New York. It was time to leave when I left, but you know what? It was I had five great years there, and the experiences that you get with a club allow you to carry that over and maybe understand from a New York point of view that the clubs have their own special interests and their own special problems and their own special needs that you have to consider. But when I left, I mean, like the current commissioner, I mean, I hired him, and he was a lawyer in Washington at the time, and brought him in for player development, and he was there. The business side of it was there. It's Sandy Alderson on the baseball side of it. Put together an organization. So I walked out of there. It was absolutely seamless as to how they carried on. And they have problems, of course. I mean, all the leagues have problems. But I think at the very end of the day, Joe, I think you got to say that coming out of what was 1994. I mean, 94 was the year that the World Series was. Okay, and then in kind of 95 was a tough year. 96, it started to come back a bit, which was consistent in a lot of ways with the Yankees starting their run and being good, because that gave you the New York papers. That gave you the kind of the front page of a lot of papers in North America, quite frankly, because the Yankees were good for another 7 or 8 years with all their good players, and then we ended up with the McGuire and Sosa contest to see who would get the most home runs. So all of it was coming together. All of it was coming together nicely, and I think that given the challenges that we had, and given the hole that we had dug ourselves, when I say ourselves, I'm talking about owners, players, everybody else. But coming out of canceling the World Series, I think at that point in time we came out pretty good.
Well, when you left, there were some lean years in Toronto. You ended up coming back to the team, and then of course the team made that great run in 2015 and 2016. Now, some fans were worried when Rogers paid $12 billion or whatever it was for that NHL deal. Now, they were worried that this is going to take money out of the Blue Jays' pockets. But this is what you had to say at the state of the franchise address.
I mean, I think that as you as fans look at what Rogers is going to do and what our owners are going to do, I think you can take comfort in notwithstanding the other investments that they've made, which may actually be an endorsement for their commitment to sports, is not going to affect what we're doing at all. What we've got to do is perform on the field. And then if we perform on the field, then we're going to have all the resources we need to make sure that you have exactly what you need, which is a very good team. As it is, we will be in the top 10 in salaries this year, and no one's complaining, and nobody is saying that we haven't had what we need to support ourselves.
And that's kind of what you talked about that earlier. You kind of reiterated what we heard from you earlier, is that Rogers was always kind of there for you guys and giving you what you needed.
Well, and they've proven it again this year and last year, for that matter. I mean, from a resource point of view, I mean, you can't criticize this ownership. I mean, owners never get enough credit. They always get the blame. They never get enough credit for what they do. But this isn't a paid endorsement for anybody, but I will tell you one thing. They have been very supportive of what Mark and Ross are doing. They've given them the money that they've needed. They've made the commitments that they've needed. They put the money in the ballpark here. I mean, what they've constructed in Florida might be the best in sports. Forget about the best in baseball. Now it's the newest, so that's that will always be something that will someone will overtake them at some point in time in their facilities. But they put it into the players also, Joe. And they did it with us. And when we had to go and sign Jose, there was not a problem there. We had to go sign Carnacion, there was not a problem there. We had to go trade for Donaldson. There was never a problem. So we could never ever be critical of the resources that we had. Were we I don't want to call it irresponsible. Did we overextend ourselves? No, but we never requested it either. And so I don't know whether we would have got money that would have put us in the luxury tax if we wanted to do it. I have no reason to think we wouldn't. But we never got ourselves in that position where we did it. But Alex, when we made those trades back in 2014, and then in 2015, I mean, when he made all the big trades of that. That week in July, they just kept on coming. I don't know, but the salaries kept on coming too. But was never turned down. You got to think about it. I mean, Tulo was the kind of a contract we traded for. It was $100 million. And I was dealing with Tony Staffieri at the time, who was now the president of Rogers, and Tony said, "Yeah, go for it." Okay. But next thing we got David Price. Then it just started coming together, and that team was a little bit more like the '85 team in the sense that we got close, and both times them were Kansas City, but it didn't work out. But no, that I would say they've been terrific, and I would say that as we're going into opening day for the home opener, I mean, you can't criticize them for the support and the resources that they've given the current leadership to put together their team.
Jose Bautista joins you on the level of excellence this summer, and of course we have to look back at the bat flip. Where does this home run rank in the list of Jay's great moments?
Oh, it ranks right up there. That was so many. I mean, you can't make it up from nobody knew what the call was on the catcher's interference to Texas got and you look at it, he was a leader at his time. Now everyone's flipping back, but no, it ranks right up there for everybody in the city. And it was a good thing too, because who knows what would have happened if in that ballpark, because the tensions were getting pretty high. But as you remember when Russell Martin, it's another one. They gave us some money for these guys. Russell was signed for $85 million. And it was one of those deals that but when he threw that ball back, and whether it's interference or not interference, is it a dead ball? Is it not a dead ball?
Yeah.
All of that was going on, and then Bautista guy what's next? What's next? I mean, it's got to be one of the great innings of baseball.
It was unbelievable. I was there at the ballpark that day, and I've never experienced anything like it in my life. No doubt about it. That place was just vibrating, shaking. It was just incredible. And, you had the one error after another by Texas to set all that up. And it just, this is an outfield like all-stars. They don't do that. Yeah. They don't do that.
No. But, the good thing about it was that Jose was a home run hitter. Like, this was not a fluke, and this ball wasn't he got that anger on his face. I mean, for that he should be on the level of excellence. Just one of those things that you'll never forget. It was a where were you moment, just kind of like with Joe's.
Right, for sure. Okay, so shortly after that, you retired as president. What was the decision that prompted you to step down?
I was getting older, and and I could tell the game was really changing. And after a while, you need new vision, and you need new people that that come with a plan. And so at that point in time, I determined that it was probably the right time to leave. I mean, whether they wanted me to leave or not wanted to leave, we worked out a deal. I stayed for the 2015 year. I was certainly glad that I did. And when I left, I mean, I got to say that I think it was the right time.
Yeah, not that long ago, you got a chance to throw the first pitch to guess who? Joey Bats, along with your grandson Max. There you go. You got such a great ovation. How much of a thrill was this?
Well, it was a terrific thrill. I mean, for a guy who does a lot of talking, I never liked to be on the field in the limelight or anything of that nature. So to kind of finish my career and be able to throw out that pitch I was a little nervous. Was I going to get it there or not? Well, look at that.
Oh, nice. That had some heat on it.
That would have been a swing and a miss, okay. But we had it was a terrific feeling, Joe, and to be appreciated and to kind of finish the career that way. I couldn't ask for anything better, and it's kind of followed my life where luck has played a significant and a great part for it. So that was it.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny, we see you there with Jose and John Gibbons, and a lot of people were scratching their heads, honestly. And I was one of them when you guys decided to bring back Gibby. After he didn't have a lot of success the first time around. What was that decision? Who made that choice, and why?
Well, man, that was Alex. I mean, it was strictly Alex. I remember Alex coming to see me because we were looking for a manager at that point in time. John Farrell's gone, looking for a manager. We'd interviewed a few guys, and I will tell you, I'll just leave their names go. A couple of them were really good and everything. And Alex walked in one day, and he said, "You know what? I think we should bring back Gibby." And I said, "I know, Alex. Gibby's already been gone once. You can't bring him back a second time." Then I thought, I came back a second time. That argument doesn't work. Okay. And so it was strictly Alex. And, again, it was the right, he was a combination of basically Cito, Jimmy, Bobby Cox, everything else. I mean, he knew the game. He had a relationship with the players. He could be tough if he wanted to be, maybe too tough sometimes, but on the other hand, just an absolutely fantastic human being that had the respect of the players and, and could teach the game and love the game. He's an old baseball guy. And continues to be that way, and and just loves the game, respects the game, and respects what the goal is to do. So that was Alex. There's nobody else. That was Alex Anthopoulos, and it was his choice. Because I still remember saying, "Are you sure about this, Alex?" And because we didn't really have to interview him, we knew him. He was available.
Yeah. And you know what? Gibby's a great guy too. I mean, he just is. He's just a great guy, baseball life for it. Call, man.
Outstanding human being. Outstanding human being. I think you probably go back and you look at the good coaches, good general managers. That you'll get all kinds of different personalities. But there is a trait of them respecting the games and doing it in a way that respects the players. And Gibby and Cito's case and Bobby Cox. I mean, Jimmy, when he was started, they also had the ability to kind of not take it so seriously. They took it seriously. Don't get me wrong, but not so seriously that they didn't understand that over 162 games you can't expect perfection all the time, and so you've got to deal with it. So Gibby was terrific. He was the right guy for that team because we had a lot of different personalities.
Let's talk about today's team, okay? And first of all, let's talk about the changes at the Rogers Center. I haven't had a chance to get down there or anything, but I've been kind of away. But tell me what does the park look about the changes? What impresses you the most?
Well, I'll tell you something right now. I think they're doing a terrific job with the changes. The concessions, they call it the districts, whatever it is. I mean, the types of food. That's not really the key to it. I mean, it's the fields. I mean, I think the field's going to make it a little bit different for the players, but it needed a refresh. And when the stadium was originally constructed and opened in 1989, it was basically an arena and a stadium. There was not just baseball here. There was football here. There was WrestleMania was here. There was tennis tournaments here. The Raptors played their first few seasons here, and it was a little different place. It is now basically, for other than for concerts, it's a baseball stadium, and it's got some quirks to the outfield right now, and I think that's going to be make it a little bit interesting from a fielding point of view. They've got the different heights of the fences. They've raised the bullpen so everyone can see it. They put bleachers in. I mean, it's got a fantastic feel to it. I think they've done a marvelous job. And more importantly than that, once it's finished, because they're really only halfway through. I mean, they haven't done anything behind home plate or anything of that nature, but they've given us a real good statement and kept what I think is sacred, which is the location. I mean, it's downtown, and so you've got everything around you. A little bit, maybe not too far walking from the subway, a little further than it is from the Scotia Arena. But you've got the CN Tower, you've got the Ripley's, you've got the Convention Center, you've got the Rogers Center, and then you've got Scotia Arena. I mean, it's all in one area. It's all contained. And so you've kept it. They've made the changes. And again, give Rogers credit for it. They had the vision. I think the most amazing part about this whole thing is how they did it in 5.5 months. I mean, you have to go out there to see it, but the fans are going to be there. And I'll tell you what, those bullpens are right on top or the fans are right on top of the bullpens. I mean, you until you see it, you can't believe it. But there's got all the standing room, that is going to be good for going out there and watching the games. It's going to be terrific.
Looking forward to getting out there. So this is number 47, season number 47 of Blue Jays baseball. Number 46 ended in disappointing fashion. Very disappointing fashion, almost unbelievable. What did you guys take from that ending against Seattle?
I'm with you. I mean, I am a fan. I mean, I have nothing, but you could see what they've done. I mean, they've changed the team around. I mean, from a to a defensive team. They brought in 3 outstanding outfielders. You just pray no injuries, and if you don't, you've got as good outfielders in baseball. Got 3 center fielders, 1 in right, 1 in left, and 1 in center. They've changed around. They've got in more pitching. We started off on the road at 10-6, and hopefully, or 10-6-4. And so, if we can keep this thing, going, I think that we've got a real shot. It's got power. It's got singles. It's got speed. It's a little bit more base stealing this year, I suspect. At the very end of the day, Joe, I think that that this is going to be a fun team. And it wasn't one of those ones where let's repeat what we did last year and hope that it turns out different this year. Let's change it. And and they changed it. I mean, they changed it dramatically.
We talked about Bill Barfield and Mosby earlier. Is this the best defensive outfield that the Jays have ever had?
Pretty damn good, I'll tell you. Pretty damn good. It'd be hard to think of one that's better. They've got Gold Gloves out there. Whether they got Springer, they got Kiermaier, they got Varsho. I mean, it we'll have to wait and see how it plays out for the year, but you'd have to think it's right up there. The other outfielders, when we're the World Series, I mean, for me, Devo's the best. Okay, Devon White, he was the best. And when I think back on it, maybe the corners weren't the same as these other 2 guys, but I mean, the one thing they all do that they have in common, they all play all out all the time, and you just hope that doesn't create any injuries. But Kiermaier, I mean, you almost hated to see Tampa Bay come in because you always worried about what he was going to do. We know what George Springer and how he plays, and I mean, you could do from just his times in Toronto. You could do a highlight reel of what he's got. And, you can see that Varsho, as what Bobby Maddock used to call, forget the athlete part. Varsho's a baseball player. I mean, I remember him saying to Pat one day, to Pat Gillick, he said, "Hey, Pat, I'm tired of the athletes. Give me a ball player." Well, I'll tell you what, this guy's right up Maddox's alley.
Kiermaier, I remember him going up against the wall and taking
question.
a lot of sure hits away from the Jays, time after time after time. So that, having him on your side is pretty good. So, did you ever think Vlad was going to be a Gold Glover? Honestly,
well, the funny part about it is, Joe, in front of our eyes, you could see him improve from kind of week to week. I mean, game to game is tough, okay? But clearly week to week or maybe month to month, you could see how when he moved over to first base, how he was, how A, he was approaching it, the energy he was putting into the position, and B, how he was improving. And, and right now, you got to look back and you say to yourself, that's commitment. That's commitment. And, he's obviously made the commitment to really perfect him. And he's probably not where he wants to be right now. So we'll see what happens. But no, you wouldn't have said that to begin with. I think you're right. I think you're right. But the bottom line of it is, I mean, like he hustles. I mean, he runs. It's not like trotting after the ball. He's running. I mean, you gotta give the guy credit. Tip your hat, man. He's fun to watch.
I know. At one time they were worried about his weight, and then he was, "Well, you can't take him off third. He's not going to allow you to do that," and everything else, yada yada yada. But look at him now, Gold Glover. By the way, Vlad, Kevin Kiermaier, Matt Chapman. I know it's early, all hitting over 400. That's not too bad.
Not bad. You think they can be there at the end of September?
Yeah, well, that's good. I know. The only one who's been ever close is Olrud. So let's talk about that 12-11 game in Anaheim the other day. What a roller coaster ride that was. Down 6-0, and happened, hits a grand slam, a back and forth affair. And is that Did you enjoy this game?
Well, yeah. I mean, well, you wouldn't want too many of them. I mean, you write it off, then you come back, then you put it in the win column. The golf. You go to the golf, you come back, you can't believe what's happening. It kind of reminded me of opening day. In St. Louis, it was the same type of feel. Just kind of kept going back and forth. But no, it's one of those ones I would tell you, Joe, that that you don't need too many of them, but when they happen and you're on the W side of it at the end of it, it's pretty fun to be part of.
Okay, Paul, you've been given the keys to the city. You've been awarded an honorary Doctor of Laws degree from Western. You've been awarded you've been made a member of the Order of Canada. When you look back at that kid who left Welland back in the early 60s, do you have to pinch yourself?
I definitely have to pinch myself. I look at it and I know there was a line from the movie, but you look at people, you meet people, you say, only wish they had the life that I had. I hope everybody can have that type of thing because, I was very fortunate. And the best part about it was the people I worked with, the people I worked for, and in this particular case, the fans. I mean, I've been very fortunate meeting a lot of people over the years that are true Blue Jay fans or are true sports fans, and the interest that they've shown, the support that they've given, and the commitment they've made to kind of seeing us through all the problems and all of the challenges and put together a team. I mean, I think it's fantastic. So do I pitch myself? Absolutely, yes. Joe, every day's a Saturday, or was a Saturday. Now, you remember it rains some Saturdays. I mean, so you have the odd bad day. And I can't think of a time that I didn't look forward to coming to work. And I had that great 5 years in New York, too. So, I mean, I'm a little guy from Welland, Ontario, and proud of it.
Right. Yeah, every once in a while you have those George Brett home runs and those games against Seattle and all that other stuff. But overall, it's been pretty good.
Been very fortunate, Joe. I met a lot of good people. I made media people. I made you can take them in kind of blocks, and you can't say anything negative about the collection of the individuals. So as you say, this all out of Welland, Ontario, London, and being I guess the right place at the right time, and it's pretty darn good, Joe. I've been retired for 8 years, and here you want to talk to me. I mean, who wants to do that? That's not bad.
Yeah, well, this has been awesome, Paul. I want to thank you for taking the time to join me. This has been a lot of fun.
Joe, you get what you deserve, and you deserve it because, you're a good person, and we all miss you on television because, you know what, I always be sitting there like, coming up.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah,
miss you too. All right. Yeah.
Take care.
All right. Thanks, buddy. More sports when we come back. Thanks, Paul.
Okay. We'll look forward to it. Thanks, Joe.
My closest Swiss pick of the week. Last week, I took White Tiger in the preferred trot on Monday night, the third race. White Tiger just never dug in his claws at all. The favorite, Logan Park, with Doug McNair driving, took the lead in the stretch, held off a late challenge from 35 to 1-shot Patriarch Hanover. The 145 trifecta returned 364.60. This week, I like Sylvain Filion and Tesla Power in Thursday night's second leg of the Ontario Spring Series for 3-year-old pacing fillies. Tesla Power is coming off a win at 5-1 last week. I also like the 5-2-3 exacta and trifecta box. For all the racing updates, visit COSA TV on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Go to hpibet.com for your wagering options.
Joe Tilley Sports is brought to you by COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association, providing a united voice for harness horse people racing at Ontario tracks. Check out your benefits today at COSAonline.com and check out COSA TV on Facebook and YouTube for all the latest harness news and live action updates. Live racing year-round. Go to hpibet.com for all your wagering options. Become a member today, and your first bet is free. That's hpibet.com. Addiction Rehab Toronto, Toronto's #1 alcohol and drug treatment center, saving lives, reuniting families. The only treatment center in the province to offer medical detox, treatment, sober living, and lifetime aftercare all in one place. Our unique and specialized programs are designed to equip our clients with the tools to successfully lead a life of dignity, respect, and purpose. Let us help save your life or your loved one's life. Call today for more information or to facilitate an intervention. 1-855-787-2424 or visit addictionrehabtoronto.ca. Guests on Joe Tilley Sports receive a gift certificate from Classica Imports. Top of the line imported men's clothing. Check out the Classica Essential Collection now. Go to shopclassica.com.
And we want to thank all the folks who make this show possible. These are friends, trusted business associates, and all-around great people. We highly recommend them all. Thank you for your support of Canadian and local sports. A reminder that the show is available on iTunes, Breaker, Spotify, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, as well as Spanglish Network, Zingo TV, TV Live. Also, check out the show on YouTube. All of our great past shows and clips are on there. Like and subscribe. It is absolutely free. Thanks once again to Paul Beeston for being on the show. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Do you want to buy or sell a home? Could 31 years of real estate experience help you? Why not speak to an amazing team that loves to overpromise and overdeliver? Aldo has a tremendous team of experts on staff. They are committed to making your next real estate transaction smooth and comfortable. Call 416-GET-ALDO or visit getaldo.com. Brian Gribben Insurance Planning, helping you solidify your financial future.
At BGIP, what we do that's unique in the marketplace is we show people how to spend and enjoy their money in their early years of retirement without the fear of running out. Also, we're able to do this without you having to change financial advisors. Please look us up at bgip.ca today. Let's book a 30-minute phone call to see how we can bring value to you and your family in your planning.
Call Brian today for all your retirement needs. We did. 905-686-5678. MNP, a leading Canadian national accounting, tax, and business accounting firm. MNP proudly serves and responds to the need of their clients in the private, public, and nonprofit sectors. Through partner-led engagements, MNP provides a collaborative, cost-effective approach to do business and personal strategies to help people and organizations to succeed across the country and around the world. With local offices in Oshawa, Mississauga, Burlington, and more, their team is here to support you. Visit mnp.ca today to learn more.